to help support our segments. And that's why we have this bingo ball cage filled with 32 ping pong balls with different team logos. Everyone's represented. Your team is in this cage. So I'm going to pull out a ball, ask a question, and you have to answer it to the team that pops out.
All right.
I'm going to you, Kyle, first to ask you. I mean, we saw so much great action preseason week 1. I want you to tell me why this team is having the best preseason so far.
Who you got, Adams?
The New Orleans Saints.
Oh, that's an easy one. They had a superstar player hold out, and that lasted about 2 seconds. They signed Mike Thomas, the biggest contract ever. Just flicked that thing away. They haven't had any major injuries. I just read a sterling write-up from Peter King about the Saints' new facility and how Sean Payton loves it so much that he wants to be there for life. I read another write-up about Jared Cook is gelling with Drew Brees, and that's going to become a thing. Alvin Kamara looks good. The defense looks good. Cam Jordan has a sock line. I'm sure Harry Connick has tweeted about them. Hope floats, Harry, and so does everything for the Saints. Great preseason.
Oh, you got all the headlines with the Saints covered. Kyle, I love it. You can play along at home at GMFB. Nate, your turn.
All right.
Great
Come on, Nate. Don't put up no brick. Okay.
We'll be watching before the regular season kicks off. I want to know why this team has the most interesting storyline to follow in Le Preseason, and it is your former squad, the Minnesota Vikings.
All right. I mean, what else is it? It's the Kirk Cousins story, right? You get paid that ton of money, and then it seems like every single season we have a game or two where it's Kirk Cousins has to win this game.
Yep.
He needs to win the big one, and they're going to be in the same position this year. Go ahead and win that big game. When it comes to pure X's and O's, though, you got to love that combination of wide receivers. I feel like the most disrespected group of wideouts, and that's the leading receiver, Thielen, and then, of course, Stephon Diggs, and then the running back situation. No more Latavius Murray. The Tate train is gone, but Dalvin Cook had that injury last year. Come back.
Let's go.
You guys remember that first game of the season, he broke Adrian Peterson's rookie record in yards in the game. So let's see if he can take that one game, spread it out in the second season, and have himself a year.
Kyle, you were on Kirk Cousins' podcast last week. You spoke to him, and they seem pretty loose, even though I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth. They consider themselves a Super Bowl contender, I'm sure.
Absolutely they do. I think it's very easy to forget. They had one season under Kirk Cousins. They did not have the chemistry. They have the whole offseason. Could be big things for Minnesota this year.
Shregs, you're up. Have you ever been to a bingo hall, Shregs? Anyone at the table?
No.
I've never
I definitely have. I've called bingo, all the time.
Oh, you've called bingo?
Of course. Yes, guys, I'm famous.
Wow.
We should go. We've got a lot of players to be hyped up about before we kick off in September. I want you to tell me why this team,
the Titans,
the Miami Dolphins, why this team has the player, the one guy that we will be talking about most this preseason. Heavy lifting for you.
Yeah, they had the undrafted wide receiver who had a couple big plays this weekend, but I got to say, Josh Rosen looked really, really good. And I think there was so much piling on Rosen after the draft, and then he gets traded, and everyone said, oh, it's Fitzpatrick's job. I thought Josh Rosen showed me a little something on Friday night or Thursday night when they played the Falcons. He had a couple big completions. He got intercepted early and then was able to bounce back. I think that Brian Flores and what they're building there in Miami, it's a long-term build. And as everyone is looking towards Tua or Fromm or Lawrence or all these other quarterbacks, there's a chance Josh Rosen's actually that guy. And don't sleep on Josh Rosen actually winning that job. I know Fitzpatrick's been the runaway guy since the start, and everyone said it's his gig. Josh Rosen's got a little bite to him. I think Josh Rosen might be a player that you will be excited about when all things are said and done. Showed us a little something in the preseason game Friday night.
I know that you love an undrafted cat, and I love a sleeper for fantasy. This Preston Williams kid, really tall, undrafted, lit it up week 1, almost had 100 yards. Somebody I need to keep my eye on?
He's 6'5". He's got the build. He had 2 skyscraper catches where he looked like Julio Jones picking the ball up over Luke Kuechly. But deep breath.
I know.
Undrafted.
You're right.
First week of preseason. We shall see. We've seen a lot of great receivers not make the team after a big preseason.
You said slow build for Flores. Is there a palette for that? You get a few years now
That's
anymore?
a great question.
What I'm saying? Like, especially Miami. Would they be like, you got a few years, turn and burn this thing, or now? Or like, do we got to win 8 games this year? What do you think?
I think that's a fair question. In the NFL, there's no such thing as a rebuild. Ask Steve Wilkes out in Carolina,
One and done.
Arizona, how that rebuild went. I think Flores has the confidence of the ownership, and I also think Flores has laid it out. We're going to be competitive. We're going to be well-disciplined. We just have to collect the talent and grow. So I'm in on the Dolphins long-term, maybe not this year.
Anybody else have a question for the bingo machine before we go?
Yeah, sure.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Okay, let's do it. Who's going to win the Super
Oh,
Bowl?
I always like this one. Super Bowl champions.
Whoa!
Nick Foles.
I like it.
Okay, make the case for Jaguar Super Bowl. Go.
I like
Nick
it.
Foles, there's a statue outside of him, the link that Carson Wentz has to walk by every day. He was the MVP, and he's down there now. So, boom, that's all I have to say. Nick Foles, baby.
And I want to give a special shout out to Brooke, who painted these. Will Surratt, who's our showrunner, his daughter hand painted these, and that's absolutely amazing when you look at the details. So
Wild.
thank you, Brooke. You're amazing.
Regular Bob Ross.
You can tweet us at GMFB. We're going to have every highlight from the weekend, your breakout stars, fantasy football.
Yeah.
You guys might not have liked Tony Pollard. I don't hate him in the last round of the draft.
I like him
catch
too.
the ball. He could be an Alvin Kamara kind of guy.
Sure.
And John Gruden, we'll hit him and what's going on with those Raiders. Plenty going on ahead of Hard Knocks Episode 2. Anybody going to defend Antonio